Okay, this is where I do the dance, and I'm like, am I live? I'm not sure if I'm live. It says I'm live now. Okay, cool. So it's like almost 10:30 here in Austin. And I thought, oh, I'll do one of these before I hit the sack because I'm still I've just been playing poker. I do the weekly tournament online, obviously. No masks required because you don't even have to get out of your pajamas. Um, and I figured, oh, it's going to be a few days before I get the chance to do one of these again. So I may as well get it done now, which, is kind of optimizing time. It was either that or go play the piano. And I might still go and play the piano as well when I'm done this. So anyway, hi. It's been 3 days since my last I don't know how long it's been since I talked to you. Um, but lots happened. So much is going on. I feel like the world is moving at such a rate of knots. It's incredible. So, first things first, poker gags. The day just evaporated as well, by the way. Yeah, oh yeah, okay. Granted, I took 2 naps. I know, like this is hardcore napping, and I think I can get used to this. Um, but yeah, hopefully I'll be able to sleep tonight. But um, and but even despite that, like that takes out like 2 hours out of the day. Like it still just disappeared. Um, and I think what happened was I sat down about 1:30 to edit some animation stuff that I started playing with, and I got up and it was like 5:30 in the afternoon, and I'm like, oh my god, not long until poker. So yeah, the afternoon just disappeared. But that's okay. I thought with this reading hiatus that I'd have way more time. I had images of like, the serenity of being like in a nunnery or something like that, and meditating 4 times a day, and communing with the spirits. None of that. Although, well, some of that, but getting the creative impress, it's time consuming. Like I find myself like sitting down to like do my morning pages or something, and an hour goes past and I still haven't written a word, but like there's stuff like streaming through, like ideas and whatnot. I'm like, oh, give me a post-it note. Got post-it notes everywhere. I've written another three sketches, scenes, um, comedic sketches. I think I could get used to this. The best thing that I'm enjoying about comedy, because I don't know whether I've talked about this before. I've talked about it elsewhere, but so I've always had a difficulty with humor because I just never got it. Mostly because most jokes can be interpreted in like 3 or 4 different ways, and I never knew which way someone meant. Then layer on top of that, like lacking the cultural reference points even like at home in the UK, then couple that with the cultural reference points and stuff that people grow up with like here in the US. And it's basically like trying to hold two cultures in one's brain at one time and know which one you're referring to and who your audience is and all that kind of thing. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I think some of my friends here, they kind of disregard the fact that that I didn't grow up here, and that like I know I've got the memory that they have over the last, since being a child to now. And then I have to catch up on another culture's worth of those kind of memories. It's a lot. So anyway, those are my excuses. And then when I started writing the Molly stuff, the first sci-fi series, um, I seem to find people who had a similar sense of humor to me, which was like, oh my God. So like some of this is actually funny. It doesn't just make me laugh. So my biggest pleasure with comedy is that I get to make me laugh. So the everything that I'm writing and I'm doing, I can't cater for an audience that I don't know or a culture that I don't know, but I do know what I find funny. So the goal is just to make me laugh constantly, and so I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It is fun. Why did I never think of writing comedy beforehand? Oh, yeah, that's what. Because I didn't think I was funny. I still might not actually be funny to like most people, but that's okay. Um, I'm getting to the point where I'm past caring. I really like this. I heard people like in their 40s and 50s like talk about stuff, and I think there are memes where they say, "Oh yeah, I walk into a room and I don't think will other people like me, but will I like other people?" and this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I think I've got a taste of that. And it's like tasting blood, you know, like you get this bloodlust going. You kind of got to go after it. So I'm coming after it. So that's what's going on there. I'm looking down because I'm looking at my notes because it's me staying on track. Come on. Um, right. So the good things about the reading hiatus was that I seem to get like this flow of creativity and ideas and stuff going. Um, I still need to. I wrote the lyrics, but I need to sort out music and um, I'm no doubt the lyrics will change because of the tune, but like whatever, I'll cross that bridge. It feels easier to put words to something than it is to do it the other way around. So anyway, I've got a base plate and I'll build on that. So that's still kind of in process. Um, but obviously I've been drawing and during the like animation. It's not an animation. I've created some characters and drawn the characters and put them in a single set around a book table, and that's it. And that's the image. But I'm like, well, that will do for the point of a sketch, you know, like Radio 4 manages to do it without any sketches. So that's what's going on. But the bad thing about this reading hiatus is that I've accumulated a whole bunch of stuff that I need to read, and I feel like I really need to read it now. Um, so, and that kind of brings me on to like the whole uh, uh, where am I going with that? Um, Let me tell you about the animations, and then I'll tell you about the Twitter and the revelation that I had in the last 2 days. Um, so the animation, I basically wrote the script and then started producing it, you know, like doing audio. So I found I had to do accents because you can't have a poker table and like not have like Southern accents. Maybe it's because my only exposure to poker has been here in the US. But I don't know. I think like the very fact that it's called Texas Hold'em suggests that it's the Texans who, you know, are the fathers of poker. So so some of the characters are from Texas, and because I needed more accents and I can only do some English accents. So but then I had to kind of learn a Cockney accent. And so I broke my reading hiatus briefly. So it's like a reading and show hiatus. So I haven't even watched any Star Trek for like a week. And um I'm surprised. Like I'm not dying. So I'm not emotionally dead inside. So, you know, this is good. This is a good thing to have realized. But trying to do the accents, I needed some help. So I did go looking on YouTube for Southern accents, and it wasn't very helpful. I mean, there was a woman like doing that and like talking very softly, and I mean, beautiful voice, beautiful accent, and but she was like crinkling packaging, and I'm looking and it's got like 20,000 views, and I'm like, what? Why is this? And so I started scrolling down and reading the comments, and I'm like, "Oh, I think this is a fetish." I think I stumbled accidentally on a fetish. So then I'm like Googling accent help for actors because like that's the like accent help for actors rather than I don't know, dominatrix or whatever. I don't know. Um, yeah, I'm conflating a whole bunch of stuff here. So I've been working on the hard R. That's what she said. The hard R Southern accent. I'm not going to try it now because I'll mess it up and it'll be terrible. But I am working on it on the recording, and the Cockney accent. So both of those feature in this sketch. I want to say animation because it's got pictures, but it's sketch. But the thing is that as soon as you start, so the accents was like a barrier to getting it produced. So I had to get the help for that. And so, okay, I say I cheated on my reading show hiatus. Like, you're not meant to consume material, but to be fair, I probably listened to about 20 minutes of a lesson for each of them. And that was enough to kind of get me going and doing, and like, obviously they're not perfect, but you get the idea. Um, so then I produced that, and it took about 2 or 3 days, like, because 'cause I'm not working, like, all the time. It's like I'll dick about with it for an hour here and an hour there. But I realized that then the script changes and, um, well, it has to change, partly because of the accents and partly because you realize, "Oh, that line could be done better." And I think this is the disadvantage of having made the mistakes of writing novels and not reading back through like the entire thing out loud, which is what like some people recommend, but it's a lot of work to do that. Um, so I know, and so it's when you get your audio narrator like having to struggle through it, and you get messages saying, "How do you pronounce such and such?" and "Can I change this a little bit because it's so hard to say?" And you're like, Yeah, sure, go for it." So, anyway, so what I did was I wrote the script, then I started recording the script, and I rewrote the script as I was recording it. That's where I was trying to get to. Um, and changed some accents and stuff. And it's great. It's okay. It's slow. Like I'm okay, I'm factoring in that everyone who ever like produces anything like this, like in TV, they always say, "Oh my God, like I'm so sick of it by the time it airs that they never want to see it again." I've heard that from like several different people. So I'm factoring that in, and I still think it's slow. So, and I also like when I listen to stuff like audiobooks, I listen at like double or triple time. So, and I know I talk fast, but so it might be my ear, but I think that I can probably tighten it up. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. Well, I started it before poker. I was nearly late for the start of the game because I was like, oh, I could just put one more gag in, and it's nuts because you end up going, oh, I could stuff some more jokes in, like as I'm rewriting it. So it might end up a little bit too dense, and I don't know. I'm still trying to find my speed on this. Um, so, yep, that's what's going on. And then of course there are the pictures to go with it, and I am really liking the digital age of sketching and artwork and being able to draw so that you can sketch and it can be like really rough, like like your ovals and your cylinders and all that shit, and then you can start like drawing in detail over the top with ink as you would like in a thing, and then you can like rub out all of the stuff that didn't work, and you don't have to get it right first time, and you can click undo, and then you can get to the point where you add color, and so you're working on the same image, except you've taken it through all of these different versions of itself on the one image. It's amazing. It's so cool. Like, oh man, like if they had this when I was younger, maybe I'd have done more work, art or something, or maybe I wouldn't. I was kind of crazy about physics, so maybe not. But it's awesome. It's awesome. I'm loving it now. Um, so that's where it's at the moment. And then as I'm putting the video together this afternoon, I was like, I can kind of see how I think I know how animation works. I mean, like it's a series of frames, obviously, but like there's an embodied connection that goes, oh, so you mean I just have to draw like a series of pictures and they kind of click from one to another? Yeah. And I know like they have something like, I don't know, is it 20 frames a second or something like that in order to create a moving image. So I don't want to be doing that. I do not want to do that at all. Like that sounds like a ball ache. Like my sketch was about 4 minutes and it took me for forever. And I remember hearing about like the Wallace and Gromit thing, how it would take them 4 days to shoot like 20 seconds of footage, and I'm like, sod that for a game of soldiers. So there's got to be a better way. And when I was listening to the Simpsons audio, just the what's it called, Sister Simpsons Declassified or something, the guy was talking about how they'd ship it off to somewhere like China for the animators to produce. I'm like, okay, that's an option. So even my drawings don't have to be that great. They have to be like, they have to communicate the story and the characters and so on. And then the rest could be outsourced eventually, I guess. Um, if I decide to carry on doing this, I might be onto something else by next week. Who knows? So that's what's going on. Oh, but it did occur to me, like when I was changing this script itself and re-recording, like how do they deal with this in real life, like in actual television? And then I'm like, I think this is why they do table reads. So that the writers can sit there and go, oh shit, yeah, that line doesn't work. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know. But I think I'm creating a process as I go, and this was the first one. So this will be like the second iteration of the same script, which will be great. So I don't know. I probably won't get it done tomorrow, but watch this space next couple of days. So yeah, that's good. I was like in during poker today as well. We were being so silly, and it deteriorated very quickly. And there were lots of gags. And of course, I think I'm in this. I think you got to be in the frame of mind for comedy because there are like certain like mechanisms, and I don't know how to describe it yet. But there's a mindset, and it's more technical than it is emotional. Um, and so I was in that kind of technical frame of mind, I think. And uh, like, not that I have any theoretical reference points at the moment. I downloaded a book on, I think I told you, I downloaded a book on jokes, how to tell jokes, and I still haven't, well, I haven't looked at it, obviously, because I'm on hiatus, but this will change. Um, but yeah, and also I think I've been feeling sassy because of it. It's like, it suddenly legitimizes, this is it, comedy legitimizes some of the thoughts that you might not dare think. Um, and if you also have, this may be another way of describing passive aggression actually, but if you have like something to say, like commentary, particularly social commentary, um, and you use the comedy as the container in a very technically constructed sense, uh, you have a way of outputting some of these thoughts that might otherwise be nebulous or difficult to convey sensitively, which will bring me on to my next point. Um, but also, mm, yeah, I think I need to think some more about this. Um, but I'm formulating ideas about like how to do it. So I got into a Twitter row with, wasn't a row really. I mean, considering it was Twitter, it was fairly well. Let me just qualify. Like the kind of people that I follow, like they tend to be a little bit less. They don't draw trolls as much because they tend to be a little bit more highbrow. So the discussions are a little bit like if you're going to draw a cartoon, it might be, well, good day, sir. Good day to you. Um, and it's like, I reject your premise based on blah, 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 and I have 4 points to add. You even like put your like points 1 of 4 in your freaking 280 character messages. So these are the discussions that I get drawn into. And can I also say that it's other people that start them, like for some reason. Like I'll end up like saying something supportive, innocuous, sensible, and then some shithead will jump on the thread and start saying, well, actually, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you actually are proving my point rather than disproving it. But that's okay, chat. So yeah, it's made me think about like argument construction in a more systematic way, and examining issues not with like people like to throw around information or data that they've read, and I think that's the very problem that we're struggling with is too much information and not enough trust in certain sources, and they don't have a way of critically evaluating the sources that they're citing. So and therefore all sources are mistrusted. And so I think that there is a way to have a discussion that uh, rejects the need for that and focuses on, well, how are you coming to those conclusions, and uh, what method of evaluating your evidence are you using, and does this evidence necessarily invalidate the original point? And like that's something that I'm seeing a time and time again. Um, but like there's this meme that I love. I keep posting it and reposting it because it really does sum up what they bumble in. Like they'll just I don't think most people think about these things, but they'll bumble in and with their opinions, fucking opinions, and they double down on them with no logic. And so there's this beautiful meme, and it's in French, but you still get the point. So it says something like je ne pas, je ne le pas, je, I didn't read. I didn't read. Uh, I didn't under, je ne comprends pas. I didn't understand. Mais je comprends. So it's got the three monkeys, and hear no evil, see no evil, so on. And so it's basically saying like I didn't read it, I didn't understand it, but I'm going to comment. And that's basically Twitter in a nutshell. So anyway, I'm keeping myself entertained. And this is my point. This is my new maxim. It's like if it doesn't entertain me, I'm not doing it. Fuck it. So so I'm doing Twitter because it entertains me. um so right, I got into one of these discussions on Twitter, and like to be fair, the dude wasn't disrespectful. He obviously had some beliefs and some filters that he was coming to the conversation with, which are fine. And he was basically accusing someone of being an animation guy, uh, story creator. I'm not going to name him; it's pointless. Um, he was basically saying, "Oh, he's racist, yada yada yada," and I'm like, "Nah, he's not." But in the spirit of having a real discussion, like show me why you've come to this conclusion. So he sent me some links, and he's like, you need to watch such and such a show, and I'm like, okay, I will, because I've seen other stuff but not this particular show. And it raised the point of, I can totally see how out of context, in context, something can be construed as racist. And and so even if you set out to highlight racism and um, like aggression and bigotry, and show how destructive and awful it is, that you still have to talk about it and you still have to show it, and you have to model that in your characters somehow. And I think there are obvious things, like you obviously don't want your hero, you don't want to glamorize it, you don't want to make it acceptable. And even if it's your hero demonstrating, and to a degree, maybe your hero has to demonstrate those things in order to have the self revelation and realize and then correct the behavior and correct the mindset and all this kind of thing. But it's very difficult to do that when you have a population that doesn't understand satire. So some of the things that the discussions that I've had recently have been around comedy and uh, at what level. So you've got the and I think I might have even said this on the thread. Um, so you have the poop jokes and the dick jokes and so on, and then you have the commentary jokes. The satire, the bits where you can really communicate your point. And if you have someone who is only reading it at that level of the poop jokes, then they're not going to get the what you're actually trying to say. And that's okay if it's entertainment, but it's not okay if it's then going to reinforce racial stereotypes or wrong behaviors and so on and so forth. Um, and that presents a problem because if you're going for a general audience, I mean, even anytime you create anything, it might end up in the hands of someone who doesn't quite understand it. Um, then that's a real issue. It's a real issue. And so is it's really tough. I don't know what the solution to this is. I don't know how to fix it. And last time I got a bee in my bonnet about trying to understand why the world is the way it is and how to not how to fix it. Well, it was like, well, what do we do? How do we act? And like this is how I came to story actually. It was like, well, there's this shit going on. What are the tipping points that could create something better? What do we need to pay attention to? And then how do we communicate that to enough people to make it like, okay, it's obvious that we should put more money into education. It's obvious that we should, you know, XYZ. There are lots of things. Um, and story came out as the thing, so that's why I was like, oh, maybe I should like start writing and maybe I should do science fiction. Um, but what story and yeah, because it's like story is the foundation of the culture, and if you change the stories, you can fundamentally change the whole narrative, the whole uh, frame that the culture uses. Um, so then we use mythology to return gender fluidity back to the idea of like, well, this was shamanic, this was normal in other societies. It's just that we don't have any um in this Puritan subculture that we've created over here in the last 250 years. We don't have um any reference points for that, and therefore it feels like the other, and therefore it gets expelled as the opposite of what is acceptable and all this kind of thing. And so there needs to be a way to correct that. And so it's like, go back to the source, like create story that gets back to including it in our culture. So I don't know what the answers are, and I know I probably have to read a few more books. So there are some interesting things. Obviously, I want to read some more about racism. I did when I first moved here, like a few years ago, because I was just having such a hard time understanding American culture, and racism is built in to the culture, unfortunately. Um, And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist elsewhere, because it does, obviously. Um, but I think in the older societies, well, they have different types of racism. So it's not against Black people; it's against the groups that they target, who are coming into the countries for immigration purposes, and people have an agenda saying, oh, well, they're getting all of our money, and the EU is forcing us to take them in, and all this kind of thing. And it's all bullshit. There is so much misinformation around that, and around the numbers and all this kind of thing. But there becomes a racism that builds up around areas where these people are housed, for instance. So, I mean, that's a whole other thing that is an issue. And but anyway, not to detract. That it's very difficult to figure out how to model the wrong behavior and then correct it without reinforcing the wrong behavior or the wrong stereotypes, and without offending anyone of these groups. But then you look at comedy, and this is difficult because I look at a lot of comedians and I won't watch them because I find them aggressive or obnoxious or whatever. And I'm like, that's just not even funny. It's just obnoxious. Like, there is a difference between being funny and just being rude. Um, and I remember there was a comedian back in my hometown, back in England, and he was like some local legend. And I was just too young to have really seen this, but there were remnants of it around. And people would retell his jokes and stuff, and I'm just like, that's just overtly racist and overtly sexist, misogynistic. It's funny how sexism and racism seem to go hand in hand as well. Just an observation. Um, so sorry, this is getting kind of heavy, but I think it's important, um, because I'm I think I'm talking about it in order to figure out what piece of it I can in order to do better. Um, so that's part of it, and at the same time, like, you need it to be entertaining in order to capture an audience and in order for people to watch it. So that's another thing. And you also don't want to uh, be very on the nose about it because that's where it gets boring. That's why um, is it social justice films tend to not do so well as blockbusters, because they're preachy. And so, like, we know, or like, this is something that I've figured out, like, through writing the sci-fi, is that if you want to make a point, you don't make it directly unless you're doing comedy. Like, I've done scenes where we called out all kinds of shit and we made it funny uh and obvious. I'll tell you about some of them sometime. But um there is a danger that you then become it then becomes all about that, and it's not entertainment anymore, or it's hard work for someone to watch, and then you lose the very audience that you want to show this other way of thinking to. And at the same time, you don't want it to be propaganda. So I read somewhere that the definition of propaganda is only showing one side of the story. And we already know that in order for a story to be powerful is that you show as many different aspects of it as possible. Um, I remember maybe it was looking at Mad Men. You got this huge tapestry, and not very much seemed to like evolve very quickly, but you got lots of different viewpoints, like shades of gray within the different polarizing ideas to help you comprehend the tapestry rather than uh, just go, oh, this is the right way to deal with whatever it was, like gender differences, sexism in the workplace, etc., etc. Um, and at the same time, you don't want to shame your audience. So um, Jeremy Casper is a friend of mine who did a class for a conference, a writers' conference that we created about 4 years ago now, and he did a really powerful masterclass in that, and he used the example of foot binding, and how there were novels. There was, maybe I think he had 3 novels that were about foot binding, and the first 2 failed, or the first one failed because it shamed the practice, and it shamed the people that were doing it, and so on and so forth. And the one that eventually made a difference was just a story told from the perspective of a girl who was going through life, and foot binding happened to be part of what she experienced. And within a generation, as a result of that book, uh, that that practice was practically eliminated. And so Bambi as well, apparently. Oh God, some of those Disney things would make me cry so much. Like you should show it to children. But Bambi apparently was another one that stopped the hunting of deer. Uh, and it's through the power of story. And when you're not shaming anyone, there's it gives space for change, and space for reflection, and space for processing through the emotions, because there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of, well, we've always done it this way, there's a lot of uh I didn't mean it like that, and all of that has to be let go of. um and it's a big transition for most humans to make. And so if you can take shame out of the equation and engage their heart and their conscience, I th- I think there's a way forward for sure. I don't know how to do it. I still don't know. I mean, these are big ideas, but comedy, if it doesn't alienate people through being obnoxious, but it points out the issues, I think that's the first step, like the awareness. But I think my sticking point at the moment is, how do you create the awareness? How do you play out the what is, in order to transform it without reinforcing the stereotype? Um, and I don't know the answer to that. So Claire, my friend, Claire Taylor, who is so funny. Oh my God, she's hilarious. Uh, she she started doing stand up just before all of this COVID hit, and it was so fun watching her do that. And oh my God, she would shine so bright compared to all of the other people that would get up. Um, so anyway, uh she mentioned something in the car on the way home once, and um I was saying, like, do these people not realize that they're not funny, and they're just being like uh aggressive? Do they even understand that? And she went through and she was like, "Yeah, well, I think that guy's on crack, and I think that guy's got such and such, and da 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 da." And I'm like, "How do you know these things?" And she's like, "Honey, I'm a Scorpio." And I'm like, "Yes, of course you are. Forgive me for asking such a stupid question." So, um, but she mentioned something really interesting about um, there there is a correlation between emotional maturity, or emotional something or other, and um, I messaged it to her a few days ago, um, and the ability to laugh at really dark stuff. And like, this is totally a Scorpio trait. Like, every Scorpio I know goes there, and they do it. So it's it's that what they joke about people dying, and and they are incredibly, they do tend to be like incredibly emotionally wise, like beyond their years, and um, more so than any other star sign. I have ranted about star signs on other videos, and I will do in the future, but I'm staying on track here. Um, so anyway, I was like, well, where does this information come from? What's the correlation? And she's like, there's a book you need to read. And so I have a book, and I'm like, damn it, I'm on hiatus this week. Um, so anyway, I can't even remember. Let me tell you, because then I can report back that I've read this book. Where we were talking, Instagram. The Science of When We Laugh and Why. So yeah, that's on my list, and I want to read some more stuff about anti-racism. Oh yeah, that's what I started telling you. I read a whole bunch of stuff, like white fragility and all that kind of thing, when I came here, and American history as well, because it's so related. Like you've got to go back at least 400 years to really understand what's going on now. This is why I love um, understanding the rise and falls of civilizations, and archetypally, this is how astrology ties in with understanding the world. It gives you a toolkit and a framework to map the cycles and what's going on. So glad that I came across astrology as a way of doing that. But anyway, yeah, so that's basically where my thinking's at the moment. So this week, so this reading hiatus and the increase in creativity has been nuts, and it's been cool. And I'm kind of thinking I want to just carry on and just like stay not doing any of it, not taking in more stuff, but I really want to. There are bits of information that I really want to consume and understand, and I want to finish the Hans Zimmer course on composition, because that might give me a kick to finish the songwriting. Um, so I think what I'm going to do is read again this week, read and watch and study again this week while still doing normal productivity, and then do another hiatus the following week, and maybe do alternate weeks or something, or go from there. Um, so yeah, that's basically everything that I'm working on. No, it's not. It's not even close to everything it's everything that I wanted to say for this video, this late at night after poker. Yeah, it's what I wanted to catch you up on. Okay, so like, subscribe, comments, particularly if they're useful comments or thoughts about these difficult topics. Yeah, anything you have to add, I'd be interested. So let me know. Other than that, I will see you again soon, maybe in a few days, and I'll update you then. All right, enjoy the last remnants of your weekend wherever you are in the world. Night.